Hi, good morning. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to, I call it Mga Pita. Mga Pita is like, let's drink coffee, let's have some coffee. And this will be broadcasted in several channels of mine. But, I haven't been in live for quite some time. So I asked my guest today if we can do it live because it would be fun. You will be in for a treat because we're going to talk about sports and the kingdom, which is and the faith. So we do have a very, should I say, interesting and fulfilling topic. So stay tuned because everyone, you will be in for a treat. By the way, this is brought to you by Kinasangan Foundation Incorporated and Guana Pro C. You have to boost your immune system and not just rely on the vaccines. You gotta take vitamins, minerals, good sleep, less stress, and physical activity, sports. Now, our topic for today, that'll be sports and faith. And no one who could talk to you better than anyone is our guest for today. So please help me welcome our guest for this episode. Now, I might mispronounce it or what, so please forgive me. Ian Stearns. Ian, good evening. How are you, bro?
I'm doing amazing. Thank you so much for having me. And you pronounced it correct. Ian. That's right, not Ian. Awesome.
Now, I have the thing is like I received a message yesterday. It was just yesterday on Facebook. Please like this
Yes.
page. Like, okay. Now, you know how it is in Facebook. There's a lot of crazy things. You got real people with good intent, and there are crazy people who have bad intent. But for me, I said this is talking about kingdom and sports, which is it really struck me. Now, and and how funny it is. I said, "Oh, Mr. Ian Stearns referred me to like your page, and it was actually you."
Yeah. It wasn't a bot or somebody trying to undermine somebody else, right? That's all over Facebook. Every
Right, right.
single day I get fake profiles trying to add me and sell something fake or copy other people's
Mhm.
profiles and raise money that way. Yeah, so a bunch of crazy stuff on Facebook.
Yeah, they do like fundraising and asking money.
Mhm.
No, bro, talk to me. Tell me about yourself. What do you do? What's your background? And you know,
All
go
right,
ahead,
for
please.
sure. So my name is Ian Stearns. I'm from the United States, currently living in Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. There's a long story in between all that. I'll quickly share the story. So currently, I am working as a life coach. I've been working as a life coach for the past 3 years, specifically coaching entrepreneurs and leaders around the topic of self mastery. So overcoming yourself to achieve your goals is really what I focus on coaching. Uh, on the side of that, I'm also a sports minister, meaning I share the gospel through sports. I have created a couple of sports programs these past 3 years, specifically in Mongolia, and yeah, and then they've been absolutely amazing. We're right now we're currently working on ushering in the kingdom culture and the kingdom message to sports, and it's been awesome. So to jump back a bit, would you like me to share my story a bit? All
Sure,
right.
go ahead.
So growing up, I was the reason why I'm so passionate about sports because growing up I was a very shy, introverted kid, and sports gave me that outlet to express myself, my personality. Right. Without sports, I was very awkward. It was difficult for me to make friends. I was just awkward, right? So I love sports for that reason. All through my childhood, all the way through university, I played sports on a Division II football team in America. And uh, once that ended, I felt like my life ended. I failed at a university twice. I had to stop my football career. I was too focused on playing football rather than getting the good grades. So I had to drop out, and that led me to a really deep depression in my life. And I felt like I was a Christian. I was raised a Christian my whole life, but I never really had a relationship with Christ, with God, with the Bible. So uh, at that time, Matthew 6:33 kept coming across in my mind. It wasn't like I read it somewhere. I just kept remembering this verse, and it wasn't clear in my mind yet, but I just remember, um, first seek the kingdom of God and His righteousness, and all these things will be given to you, right? Because I was asking God, why am I not successful? I went to school, I didn't do this, and also I jumped into starting my own business, becoming an entrepreneur, and that failed. And went to be a real estate agent, and I failed out of that school. So it was just all this failure back to back. And I was asking God, I thought these were dreams that you gave me. And He gave me that. So I decided at that moment to take Him up on this offer and really seek His kingdom first, to seek right standing with Him, and then see what He does in my life, right? So I ended up becoming a missionary. I got invited to Beijing, China, to serve as a missionary, and I served there for 3 years in the church, and God just completely transformed my life. Before I left, I was, as I said, I was awkward, so I was very shy. I was extremely introverted. I was super self-conscious. Like it's crazy for me to be like on this now. Like this is an impossible task. I would never think I would be able to be interviewed. Actually, I used to think when I first started my personal development journey at 23 years old, I used to listen to people on podcasts and like think like, wow, how could they just be so intellectual with their words? Like how can they just know what they're going to say and be confident? And like I had that, my self-esteem was so bad that I felt like I had nothing good to say for anybody to hear. So it crushed me, and it held me back in sports. It held me back in everything that I did, because I always felt like I could never lead. I could never be a leader, right? So I decided to give my life to the Lord, and the first thing He did when I got there was made me face my biggest fear, which is public speaking. I needed money to sustain my life there, and I got fired from my first job there from the lack of skills. And they were kind of openly racist in China. They said, your skin's a lot darker than your picture whenever you sent us.
Wow.
I was teaching English at a kindergarten. I'm jumping around a bit, but I went there to teach English and also do missionary work. So English is to sustain my life so I could stay there. And then the missionary work was with the ministry as I was living there. So I got fired from that first job. I really needed money. The first thing that came up, and it was like the only thing that came up, and I really needed, was to do a PowerPoint presentation on how to sing English songs well for a Fortune 500 company in China. And there was like about 200 people in the audience in there, right? Well, I didn't know at that time, but I did my best to back out. I was like, no, I can't do this. It's like my absolute worst fear. Like I will probably pass out on the stage. Like it's like I was just trying to tell him, like, I'm not the person. Please find me something else. But my pastor at that time reminded me. He told me, like, didn't you say you have this dream? Like, didn't you say you want to be this entrepreneur? Like, didn't you? Like, he was just reminding me of all these things that I was telling him I was dreaming, And then I had to remember why I was there in the first place. And it was to give my life to the Lord and really trust that He was going to make things work out for the better, right? That He was going to give me my heart's desires if I first seeked Him. So I ended up doing it. Long story short, I got through it, and it went better, or it went terrible, actually, in my mind. I hated every minute of it. I felt like running off the stage when it was time, when it was finished. Then at that time, one person from the competition came up to me and said, thank you so much for your help today with the PowerPoint. Thank you for, I'm going to actually try what you suggested to sing English songs better. And I don't even know how to sing. I just looked up on Yahoo the day before, because Google doesn't work there, how to sing English song better. And I just put it on a PowerPoint slide. Right? And then at that moment, a belief broke in my mind. Like something I didn't even care about, I actually helped somebody with, right? And beside that, I just conquered my greatest fear. I didn't pass out on the stage. I didn't have a seizure and like everybody laughing at me. That's what I thought would happen in my mind. The worst
Right.
case scenario. And none of it happened. It was just all in my mind. And then at that point, God showed me when you have a purpose for life, when you work from a place of purpose, and you're focused on Him and His call for your life. That's whenever you can do the unimaginable, right? That's whenever you can find the courage to challenge your greatest fear, to conquer your greatest fear, the confidence to step into it and do it, even though you're scared. Right? So, yeah, that's how I ended up in China, and from that was like the first week of China. So from there, 3 years in China serving, there were so many different tests, and I grew. And he showed me, long story short, that my calling is in sports. It's been a part of my life, my whole life. Um, I was teaching English. I ended up switching to coaching American football full time for kids and adults there, and it was like the greatest job of my life. Right? You have a question?
Yes, I do, because that's fascinating. You were saying that you were teaching American football in China.
Yeah. Mhm.
How was it received? I mean,
It's actually, there's a culture of American football there. There's actually two leagues in China, semi-pro leagues. There are about 20 something teams in both leagues. So there's like over 40 teams in China that compete against each other traveling in two separate leagues. So there's two different like Super Bowls. All are semi-pro. That means they're not paid. It's just like recreational. And then actually the AFL, Arena Football League in America, franchised there for 2 years, and then
oh
didn't
wow.
work out. Yeah, so
But but
there's.
but you were saying there is really a community supporting American football in
Yeah.
China, huh?
Mhm.
Wow. So moving forward, you did mention about, from teaching, and then your calling is really going to football and the ministry itself. So how did the name Kingdom Sports evolve? How did it start?
So that started when I came to Mongolia. So I spent 3 years in China. I met my wife in China. She was my girlfriend at the time, but yeah, I met her there. We ended up getting together, staying together for 2 years, decided to get married, and that's when we moved to Mongolia, right? And my whole plan with Mongolia was to just come here for 1 year, get the visa, and just go, because Mongolia is not the greatest country to live in winter.
Mm.
The pollution's so bad. I live in the capital city. The pollution is terrible here. The first 2 years I got really sick. Um, and I visited here one time and I was like, I could never live in this country. It's so cold.
But you
But
mentioned you're from Ohio, am I correct?
yes, from Columbus, Ohio.
So I mean that also that's a cold place during winter, but
It's
Mongolia is worse because it goes down
way.
way zero negative.
Yes. The first day I ever came to Mongolia, it was negative 35 Fahrenheit.
Oh
It's that cold.
wow!
It's that cold. You can throw the water in the air and it turns into dust here.
Seriously, it's
That's
that
how
bad.
cold it is here.
That's how
Yes.
cold it is.
That's why I was like, how do people live in this place? I could never live here. And
Mm.
then God brings me here. Yeah.
2 years.
So my first year here, I never heard of sports ministry, actually. Like I never heard of it. I just love sports. And there's a lot of poor areas inside the city of Mongolia because it's kind of a third world country. So it's
Mm.
like rich people with the poor people right next to each other. So I was volunteering at a church. He introduced me to the kids. I saw they had a basketball court. So I ended up asking if they liked basketball. They all said yes, and ended up buying cones and stuff, and having drills, teaching them
Mm.
how to play a team as a team instead of just like freestyles type of basketball, where just kids just play, where it was actually structured practice. And then I got my church involved with it because the court was so bad that we were playing on. We restored the court and built them a brand new nice court, and they were all loving it. And that's whenever Kingdom Sports came into play right there. We had to think of what to call it. And at first, I was partnered with my church, and it was called Cross Sports. And my church was called Cross Church, right? But the churches were no longer affiliated. So that's this last year we changed the name. But that's how it started. And then COVID came, so I couldn't work with the kids anymore because it was very strict, especially the gathering of kids. The next year in Mongolia, we ended up launching I ended up helping a flag football program here, American football, flag football. And that season was successful. We ended up raising money to pay for practices and the games and stuff. And after that, the guys asked, like, we really want to play tackle football. Like, we wish it was tackle. So my church and I teamed up again, and we created Mongolia's first American tackle football program. And it was a huge success. This is the third year in Mongolia, right? Second year was flag football. Third year is now the tackle football. Now I'm going on my fourth year here. And that's going to be season 2 of American tackle football. And it was the whole point of it is to bring the kingdom into sports, meaning coaching and teaching the values of the kingdom, which is having great character, which is leadership, which is respect, having integrity. These are all kingdom concepts that Jesus left behind, and the way he led his disciples, and the way he led himself, right? Those are all qualities that we really pushed into the minds of the coaches as I coached the coaches here, and then emphasize that they need to be great leaders so that the players can respect them, So that's part of the kingdom, bringing the kingdom to sports is that part. And the other part of bringing the kingdom to sports is really literally bringing the Bible, and what the Bible teaches. That way we can use it as a form of ministry to win the lost souls through sports. We can meet them where they are, instead of trying to force them to do something. They naturally just decide, okay, my coaches are awesome. They seem to have something different that I don't have. I really want to know about this Jesus guy that they keep talking about, right? So we want to develop our own curriculum and also books to be able to minister that in the future, right? So if when they decide that, then we have these books, pamphlets, we have these Bible classes and courses that they can just join, So yeah, it's evolving more and more. And my buddy back in the States, I'm currently based in Carlsbad, New Mexico now. Grew up in Ohio, now in Carlsbad, New Mexico, and we're going to be building the program there. And there's a lot to it that we got going on there too. Should I just keep going on? And
No, go ahead. My next question would be like, this is so interesting. It's like I'm just listening, bro. I'm just happy that God has led you to a life where you could reach out people, and especially with China and Mongolia, because for me, China, that would be very controversial, going to those places, to that country itself, and ministering. And I could read news about persecuted church, and I'm just amazed how you were able to serve the Lord in that country. Now I'm going to Mongolia, and just a quick question with Mongolia. What's their belief system? I'm ignorant. Please let me know. Open my mind. What practices do they do? Is it Buddhism?
Yeah, it's Buddhism, shamanism, shamanism.
Mhm.
I think those are the main one is Buddhism. And then they have this shamanism, which is, I think, I'm not sure where that came from, but Buddhism came from, I believe, China.
Mm.
China influenced the culture a long time ago for Buddhism, and shamanism. I'm not sure where it came from, but those are the two main ones. It actually, Christianity is growing a lot here. Um, yeah, I heard a statistic not too long ago that Mongolians have the most Christian missionaries, like that, meaning like according
Wow.
to the population of Christians, how many of them actually leave the country to do missions or go to other parts inside the country to do missions, right? So they're actually very active Christians here in Mongolia.
And how is Christianity accepted by the community that you are with, especially with sports? You did mention about them, trying to know Jesus, but how what's their attitude towards it?
For Mongolia, in Mongolia,
Yes, from Mongolia, from Mongolia.
yeah, in Mongolia. Um, so the first year in the program, um, I was kind of laying the foundation because they kind of knew who I was, but they didn't really know. So my goal was to build a relationship with them, build trust with them, um, and gain their respect. Gain their friendship, and that's what I did. And we never had any Bible studies. We never read the Bible together.
Mm.
But they all know that I'm a Christian, and they all know that a church is the one who funded all of this. They all know I go to church every Sunday. We can't have practice or games on Sundays, because that's what I do. That's what I stand for. So through that, I was able to get a few of them interested in learning more about Christ.
Mm.
Asking me questions and just started their curiosity, and they all had such a great respect for me too. They didn't invite me to like go drinking all the time or partying with them. It was like they understood the boundary between us. So um, I believe they will never forget this football program because all of them had a blast. They all worked hard. Everybody had to give a certain level of work ethic in order to stay on the team because
Right.
that's like you want to be a part of the team, you have to make the team. Well, I'm old school here.
What's the age group of the team?
So
Do you have
it's
certain division levels? Go ahead, please.
in Mongolia, it's the
Yes.
first of its kind. So it's the only thing here. So we had everyone from 18 years old all the way to about 38 was our oldest player. 35, maybe 36, our oldest player, right?
Mm.
18 to 38, and we had two teams, but we practiced together as one team because there's nobody else to
Right, right.
practice with, right? Yeah, so we practiced together, split, and had a game once a week, right? And yeah,
And
it
you,
was.
I'm sure, you have a good number of linebackers there.
There are some big guys, Mongolia.
Uh,
Yes, that's why I feel so confident in pioneering American football here because the guys are naturally big and their
mm,
national sport is wrestling. It's kind of like
yes,
a form of sumo, but it's a
yes.
Mongolian style, right?
Uh,
Uh, the guys are really big, like sumo guys. Not as fat as sumo, but they're stronger, more
mm,
athletic than sumo wrestlers. So I was like, wow, this is the perfect place for football. In China, everybody's so skinny. Everybody's so skinny. Most people
right.
are short. Yeah, so I feel like Mongolians would take up football faster than the Chinese do.
Genetic wise, I could see Mongolia for American football because
Hmm.
indeed they're big people. Now,
Yeah.
where do you see this project of yours 5 years from now, short term, after five
Yes.
years, 10 years? Where would you see it?
So
How?
the goal, we're going to be based in Carlsbad, New Mexico. I'm moving back in 7 months after this next season. Um, and my buddy and I, Sam Orta, we're going to create a facility in Carlsbad, New Mexico, and we're going to run our first sports program. And it's sports because we don't want to limit it to one sport. We're passionate about basketball, baseball, American football. That's where we plan to start. And we might have other kind of sports around that, but we're going to start our own programs there. The goal is to build a facility. Once we get facilities and everything up and going, then we want to create sports missions opportunities, right? And that will allow people to be a missionary while teaching sports in a different country, right? That's like, that would have been amazing. Like that would have been like something I would love to experience as a kid. Like I can go play sports with people from different countries and at the same time, learn about what it means to be, to do missions, in a different country. And for them to experience a third world country is very life-changing for American kids, to see what other countries live, how they live day to day, the suffering of day-to-day life here that American kids have so easily, that they take for granted. So it's like it'll transform not only kids but American adults as well. It'll transform me. Like I'm a total new person because of it.
It's so true because kids here take for granted the things that they have. They would even complain that they have no cell phone or no signal at all. And in third world countries,
they have to work just to get their water here.
Right. And some countries don't even have a hot water or cold water. All they get is whatever the temperature is, and you have to boil it manually just to get your desired temperature. And that's the thing. Kids take for granted what they have, and for them to experience other countries, what life is, totally mind-blowing, eye-opening. And dude, this is such a pleasure talking to you. Do you still have a few minutes, 5 minutes?
Yeah, no problem.
Now, I did mention about 5 years, 10 years from now, where the sports will be, your advocacy and your project is. Maybe just to close out, I'll give the whole frame, your final thoughts, message to the people, viewers, and how they could reach out to you, contact you if they want to support your project. So I mean, this is interesting, a very great conversation, and I'll give the whole floor to you, Ian.
All right.
Oh no, sorry. Oh no.
It's all good.
Oh.
No worries. Oh, you made it all the way to the end, huh? That's awesome. All right. So yes, last words. Just a reminder. We are launching the second season of American Tackle Football, and we are going to be getting nicer jerseys, nicer equipment this year, because all the stuff from the first year is destroyed. We just got the bare minimum and had the first season, luckily, by the grace of God. But this year we want to get nice jerseys. That way, by the third season, we hope to get American football helmets and pads. And we want to put those, be able to reuse these jerseys, these uniforms over and over for a couple of seasons at least, so we don't have to buy it every year. So we're raising $10,000 this year, and we started a GoFundMe page. And you can get connected with me through Facebook. You can just go to facebook.com/Kingdom Sports 22, 2022, just 22 though. Facebook.com/22. So Facebook.com/Kingdom Sports 22. You could find me there. You can click the learn more information. You can find the GoFundMe page, and you can see even more in depth of the projects that I've worked on in the past. And we also have a private Facebook group if you're interested in learning more about kingdom principles, if you want to learn more about what it means to be a kingdom sports minister, if you want to join the conversation of how we can bring Kingdom Reformation to the world of sports. We have a group called Kingdom Sports Family. And you can find that at facebook.com/groups/Kingdom Sports Family. That's how you can find that. Or you could just go to our Kingdom Sports page and you can find the group there. Message me. If you can't find any of that, go to facebook.com/I Stearns. That's STEARNS 22. I Stearns 22. You can find me and then ask me anything that you need. So, last word of encouragement to everybody listening. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you much for your support. Thank you for the love. Thank you, Vince, for this opportunity to come on here and have this chat with you and be able to share what I got going on. Thank you so much for that. Yeah, and just want to bless you all and hopefully talk to you guys soon. Oh, you're muted, Vince.
It was almost at the end of our episode, and I made a mistake mentioning your name. So I
It's
apologize.
all right. No worries at all. Yeah, you did the whole thing calling Ian, and then
Yeah. Anyway, it's a pleasure to have you here, and I would like to uh, probably invite you more. We could talk about sports and the kingdom itself. And I do love your approach wherein you started building relationships to the community before you go ahead with quoting Bible verses.
right.
Kind of like establish that bond, letting them see that you are an ambassador of Christ. You live by example, and then that's where the interest comes in. I salute you for what you are doing, and I pray that God will continue to bless your project. And that's it, bro. I'm gonna
Yeah.
ask you before we go. I'm gonna ask you later on those links so that I could add this up on my description so that people
Oh,
could go there, and I'll provide it to those who are watching right now. So
awesome.
let me do this before we go. I'll go on my solo layout, but don't go yet.
Okay.
So for those who are watching right now, I hope you find value on what we were doing, and Cruise Sports, you'll find the Lord. And I'm so happy that we have our guest here, Ian. And stay safe, be safe, and God bless you all. This is Doc Vince signing out. Don't forget to visit the page of Kingdom Sports, and I'm going to provide all the links after this one. So, bye bye.